Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to Ireland once again and we're going to have a look at a beer from another brewery who I have never had anything from before, but I've heard some very good things about these guys. So for this one we are going to go to Wexford, which is in the southeast corner of the island, and we're having a taste of my first beer from Yellowbelly Beer. So this one is called It's Not Vodka and it's a Russian Imperial Stout coming in at 9.1% ABV. So a little bit of a monster this, but I've heard it's very good, and you know the artwork on this is absolutely stunning, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on into the video. But this is a beer that I picked up at the Cave at Kelvin Bridge in Glasgow, and there's a good selection of Irish beers available in Glasgow now. You know, for a long time you just could not get Irish beer for love nor money, but it seems to be making a hell of a lot of headway over here in Scotland now, which is great to see, and from what I gather the beer scene really has kicked off over there in the last 5 years or so, and they're doing pretty well for themselves. So do keep an eye out for all the different Irish craft breweries that are starting up and things. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I'll do in the future from Yellowbelly Beer. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers, as I mentioned. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Irish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Yellowbelly Beer then, on to my brewery notes. So the Yellowbelly Brewery are based in Pembrokestown in Wexford, which is in the southeast corner of the island of Ireland, and the company was founded by Nicky and Simon Lambert. So their family have run the Simon Lambert and Sons pub for over 50 years, and they took over from their father in 2006, and they both went on to study their brewing certificates, and they kind of gradually built up a small brewery in the basement of the pub. But later they encountered Londonderry native Declan Nixon, who was a classically trained brewer with an experience in mainly kind of English cask ales like real ales and stuff like this, and he joined the company as their head brewer, mainly because they said that they weren't good enough to take on the brewing themselves. But they also managed to get their hands on Brewdog's second generation brew kit that they'd had in Fraserburgh, and there's quite an interesting story behind this. Apparently Brewdog had sold this to somebody, but the deal had fallen through, and it ended up getting caught up in customs in Madagascar after this deal had had gone through, and they managed to buy it from somebody else, and they brought it over to Ireland, took all the Brewdog graffiti things off it, and then started brewing with it in March 2017. But this also led to a collaboration with Brewdog, and this helped them manage to, this helped them get their name out there a little bit more, and they say that they've been kind of living on the back of that ever since, and they've built a very good reputation for themselves. But the name Yellowbelly is quite an interesting choice for them, because apparently it's a nickname that's given to Wexford locals, and it comes from an old story about hurling. Apparently there was a game between a group of Cornish and Wexford men back in the time of King William III, if I remember correctly, King William of Orange basically, and in this match the Wexford men were given yellow handkerchiefs to tie around their stomachs to play the game, but William and his wife observed the game, and he was reported to have shouted in favour of the Yellowbellies during the game, and this term is just something that stuck with people from Wexford, so kind of interesting that. But for this brewery though, Yellowbelly is a time travelling superhero, basically the Doctor Who of the beer world, but apparently he goes to different places in time and seeks out different recipes. The artwork that you'll find on these cans is from their creative director Paul Reck, and he apparently has created various comic books surrounding this character, and there's also a game there on the website that you can play as well, so do make sure you check out the brewery website in this case as well. But all of the different beers basically have themes on them, and it kind of relates in some way to the style. So I mean, as you can see here, Russian Imperial Stout, so they've got the guy dressed up as the Tsar, and they've got a bit of the, these famous Russian domes, the Kremlin and things behind it, so pretty cool I have to say. But interestingly, another point about this brewery is that they were the first brewery in Ireland to have a sour beer as part of their core range, and as of September 2019, when I'm filming this review for you, they've produced around 150 different types of beer according to Untappd. But they also have the Grady's Yard Bar in Waterford, which has 22 taps, which includes their own beers, world beers, and a few other Irish craft beers as well. So apparently that's the place to go if you want to try some of these Yellowbelly beers. But yeah, that was all the information that I was able to find about this brewery. If you want to learn a little bit more about them, of course, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can go and look at the Yellowbelly comics as well, and you can also play the game that they've produced. So yeah, that's all you need to know, as I mentioned. So let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork before we open it up. There you can see, there's the guy in his Russian military uniform. I have to admit, the artwork on this can is absolutely beautiful. I would say that I would take the label off it, but this seems to be one of these kind of polythene ones, so I'm not sure how cleanly it's going to come off the can, unfortunately. I would have loved to have kept the label if it was just a sticker, but beautiful artwork on that, as you can see. And you should have a look at the artwork just of the other beers on the website too, because it is really quite cool. I need to see if I can just keep the can for this one then. But like I said, this is a 9.1% Russian Imperial Stout. There you can see the Yellowbelly symbol on the side of the can there. Just bring that into the camera so that you can see it. There you are. But yeah, it tells you a little bit about the different malts and things that they've got in the beer too. So this one has a malt base of Maris Otter, wheat, Cara Munich, Cara Amber, chocolate and Carafa Special. A good number of those malts will be Weirmann malts. Carafa Special, I believe, is a Weirmann malt from Germany. Maris Otter's an English malt, and I think the other ones, chocolate malt can be from anywhere, but Cara Munich and Cara Amber are German malts, and the hops in this one are Fugels, which is an English hop, and there's Magnum in this, and you can get a lot of different varieties of Magnum. It doesn't say what the yeast strain in this one is, but it just says unfiltered, unpasteurised, natural beer, brewed and canned at Yellowbelly Beer, Pembrokeston, Wexford, Ireland. So yeah, looks very nice. So without further ado then, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. If I think about it, I've got a feeling that this could actually be the first ever Imperial Stout that I've tried from Ireland, now that I think about it. So that's another interesting point to make about this beer. So another first for you here on Rampant Lion Reviews. So always quite cool. But like I say, from what I gather, the craft beer scene in Ireland has been really kicking off over the last few years, and it's great to see that actually. I need to get over there and visit one of the festivals. The White Hag Festival is supposed to be particularly good actually. But yeah, as you can see with this one, and as you would expect from a Russian Imperial Stout, this guy's poured a lovely sort of dark ebony rosewood colour. If I hold it up to the light just over here, it definitely has a nice little bit of a ruby edge to it. Maybe it's fair to describe this one as being like a kind of Coca-Cola colour, but it looks very nice. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones heading up towards the bottom of that head there, and the head incidentally is about a one full finger of a frothy, I would say medium. Yeah, I would say a sort of medium mocha beige sort of thing, but it looks very nice. Not overly surprising in terms of its appearance when you consider it's an Imperial Stout. You can get them being a little bit less ruby than this, but I'm guessing that most of those are the unfiltered ones. I've got a feeling with the when I just look and see how much ruby is coming through this one, this may well have been filtered, but yeah, looks just kind of as you would expect. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and see how it got on. I will say that when I opened up the can, this one came across as being a little bit sweet, so let's see how that aroma turns out. Oh, that smells really pretty good actually. Yeah, so straight away with this beer, you're going to get a hell of a lot of things going on with this. To me, this comes across, with my first instinct with this beer, would be that it comes across as being really quite bready, but you can pick up some of those nice roasty black malts in there, and that'll be the Carafa that's coming out in there. Carafa's a really nice malt because it gives you those really roasty, toasty black malt aromas, but it does have that typical German bready smoothness to it, and that'll be the one that's giving it the majority of its colour, to be honest with you. The chocolate malts will be playing a role in there as well. But it has that lovely bready German malt base to it. It's almost like a really, if you think about a German bakery, it really reminds me of like a very well-fired bread crust, like a really well-fired hedgehog roll. That's probably a good way to describe it. On top of that, you can really get some nice sort of sweet caramelly notes in there as well. It's almost got a little bit of that dark syrupy quality, kind of treacle molasses, or a very well fired brown sugar as well. This is definitely a roasty toasty beer, but that's kind of what you expect from the Russian Imperial Stouts. That's kind of what distinguishes that sub-style a little bit, is these kind of roasty toasty notes. But this one definitely has a nice little bit of bready quality in there. You can definitely smell the chocolate coming out of it too. I would say that it's a kind of 80-90% cocoa chocolate that's coming out of this beer. It's a little bit like that. It doesn't really have a kind of lactosey, milky kind of quality to it, as you can sometimes get, but that would be a kind of regular Imperial Stout rather than a Russian Imperial Stout. But yeah, lovely roasty black malt backbone, some nice well-fired bread crust, and they're a little bit of a brown bready quality as well. Kind of well-fired brown sugars, a little bit of a treacle molasses kind of thing in there, and also some nice dark high cocoa chocolate as well. I would say there's maybe a little bit of a kind of nutty quality in there, but that's very, very minimal. Maybe some kind of woody undertones as well. So I mean, in terms of its malty characteristics, it does have everything that you would expect in terms of the aroma, but I don't think with this one, there's quite a bit of complexity in the aroma, but I think it's only in the flavour that you will be able to appreciate that properly, because there's a lot of different malts in here. So yeah, in terms of the hoppy side of the beer then, definitely a nice little bit of an earthy quality in there. Fugels, of course, can give you this kind of interesting ashy quality. It's quite a popular hop actually for Russian Imperial Stouts, and I've seen English brewers using Fugels in golden ales and stuff, and to me it comes across as horrible in that you've really got to use it with darker beers to make it shine. But I'm not really getting too much in the way of that ashy quality that you can sometimes get from it. But definitely a nice little bit of an earthy quality, maybe even very slightly herbal, and that's one of the characteristics of English hops. A little bit of a kind of grassy and floral note as well, but the fruitiness, which is also coming from the hops, is quite nice. It's quite subtle though. I would say there's a little bit of a slight kind of raisiny sharpness to this one, maybe some figs and plums and stuff like that. So yeah, the fruitiness, it does have a little bit of a red fruity sharpness to it, but at the same time it comes across as a little bit more juicy and figgy and things the more that you smell of it. So a little bit raisiny and sharp in the beginning, but more kind of figgy and juicy the more you smell of the beer. But yeah, as I always say, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But let's have a taste of this one now and see how we get on. So this one is the It's Not Vodka, a Russian Imperial Stout at 9.1% from Yellowbelly Beer in Wexford in southeastern Ireland. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Yeah, that's a really bloody good beer, I have to say. Big thumbs up to Yellowbelly Brewing for this one. You know, this was a beer that, or this was a brewery rather, that I'd heard were doing some really, really good stuff. And immediately, I've only had one sip of this beer, and I'll tell you that I'm very, very impressed with this, and this definitely makes me want to try some more of their beers. I'd love to try like an Irish Red or an Imperial Irish Red or something from these guys. You know, one of the things I love trying from the Scottish craft breweries are the different Scotch ales that are out there, the craft version of the Scotch ales. That's something I would love to see this brewery have a go at. When they've done 150 beers, I guess they will have a red ale at some point. If they've done a Scotch ale as well, I'd absolutely love to try that. But, you know, this, as a Russian Imperial Stout, this is a beautiful beer. I've heard good things about their IPAs as well. So, yeah, if you get the chance to try this beer, have a go at it, because it's really bloody good. So it's immediately obvious why this brewery are getting plaudits. But let's try and break this flavour down a little bit for you then. So straight away, you're going to get this roasty, toasty, black malty quality. That just blankets the middle of your tongue. It does take your mouth a little bit of time to adjust to that, so the beer will come across as quite bitter in the beginning. But on top of that, you start to get more of these kind of nice bready qualities. But the further you go into the aftertaste, the middle of your palate will dry out a little bit, and the roasty black malts will kind of punch their way out again. So, on top of that roasty black malt, you've definitely got some of that nice brown bready kind of smoothness in there. It does again come across as like a sort of well-fired bread crust, but you've got that nice smoothness that will be coming in from the Cara Munich and what was it, the Carafa and things like that. The Carafa really has that lovely bready quality to it. The Maris Otter, the English Maris Otter that they've got in there, that's a very nice malt for IPAs and things. If you want a little bit of a bready quality in there, it gives you a little bit of breadiness and biscuitness. I think that would be an interesting malt to try with Czech beers, but that's a story for another day. But the smoothness and breadiness that you get out of this beer is also really quite nice. But yeah, in the beginning, you'll get a nice little bit of chocolate out of this as well. It is quite a high cocoa chocolate, and as I say, roasty black malts underneath, the smooth brown bready and toasty bread crust quality in there. In the very centre of your palate, that's where the kind of brown sugary notes are coming out of this one, and it actually comes across as a little bit sweeter in the flavour than it does in the aroma. It's not quite as syrupy and kind of treacly as it would come across in the aroma. It's definitely a little bit sweeter than that, but at the same time it does have a little bit of a toasty quality in there. There's definitely some nice chocolatey qualities as well. And as I said, I thought it was quite a high cocoa chocolate note that was coming out of this one. But in the flavour, again, it comes across as being a little bit sweeter than it does in the aroma. So I would say maybe a sort of 60% cocoa chocolate that's coming out of the flavour of this one too. If you just go along to the front corners of your palate then in a little bit, you'll start to get a slight kind of woody note out of this one as well. And if you go to the very centre of your tongue and then just push forward, there is a little bit of a kind of nutty quality to this one. I'm a bit hesitant to say exactly what nut it is because I'm not I'm not all that well versed in the different nutty flavours, but there's a lot of really nice mixing of flavours going on in the malt base of this, and with the amount of malts that are in there, it's really not surprising. So if I compare this one to other Imperial, Russian Imperial stouts, I'd say that this one, it's maybe a little bit at the sweeter end of the scale for the Russian Imperial Stout sub-style. It's definitely got a nice little bit of German smoothness to it, and I'm a huge fan of German beers. You'll know that if you've watched the channel before. So I like that it's got a bit of that German bready smoothness in there, but the way that the flavours come out is obviously very authentic, and it's one of the great things about this beer style is, there's so much complexity to them that different flavours can push their way out in different ways, and that's one of the great things about trying different things from different places. So yeah, I think overall they've done a really awesome job with this one in terms of the way the malt base comes out. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, you can definitely pick out the fugels there. You've got that nice strong earthiness to the beer, but you can definitely feel that ashiness that's coming out from that hop. That's its kind of trademark, if you like. And as you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, you'll get a little bit of a herbal quality out of there. At the front corners of the palate, there's a little touch of a floral aromaticity. Then round the front curve of the tongue, there's a little bit of a lighter kind of grassy note coming out of this beer. And that'll be the Magnum. Magnum, I think, it's probably the German version of it that they've used in this one now that I think about it, because you get American Magnum, I think you get New Zealand Magnum as well, but probably being a European brewery, it's probably the German version that they've put in this one. But the Magnum that you get from there, it is distinctly stronger in its floral qualities than the noble hops like the Hallertau, the Titnanger. But yeah, this is, as I say, really quite nice. And the bitterness is the IBU count you're getting in this beer is coming from both the malts and the hops. But on the fruity side of things then, as I always say, you get that little oily bubble behind the front curve of your tongue where the fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. And this one's really interesting. So yeah, I would say initially you get a little bit of a kind of raisiny sharpness out of this one, and that sharpness, it does actually linger a little bit into the aftertaste, but then it starts to become a little bit more figgy and juicy, and I want to say there's almost a little kind of hint of like a blackberry, blackcurrant sort of thing to this one. So it's a little bit sharp in the beginning. It's not quite juicy and cakey and things like that you can get from some of these beers. Some breweries like to put a bit of Williamette into their Imperial Stouts to give you those really juicy red flavours, but this one is quite sharp and then more juicy and berryish into the aftertaste. But it works out really quite nicely how everything goes together in this one, and you can feel the further you go into the aftertaste, really it's more of the roasty black malt, the carafa that's pushing its way out in this, and some of that ashy that ashy quality from the fugel hop, but some of the red fruit is lingering there too. But overall, it's a really, really nice beer, this one. If I compare it to the aroma, a little bit sweeter in the malt base, a little bit more bitter and ashy and things than you would expect from the hoppy side of things. So it's a very well balanced beer, this one, and it's got a lot going on. So if you like this style, I'm pretty sure you will enjoy this beer. So have a go at it if you get the chance. In terms of the mouthfeel, yeah, I mean, this is a pretty full-bodied beer. Carbonation is pretty smooth in this one. I'd say the mouthfeel is quite oily, to be honest with you. It does have a kind of clean, sort of clean factor to it, if you like, and I've always said that. We've got very good water quality here in Scotland, and the Irish beers I think have the same as that. They've got very good quality water over there as well, so there is an element of you can really taste how good the water in this one is. But overall the mouthfeel is a bit oily, but at the same time it's a bit wet and clean, if that makes sense. In terms of bitterness out of this beer, I think we've got a, I want to say this is maybe about 60 or even 70 IBUs. There's a good kick of IBU coming from this one, both from the malt base and from the hoppy side of things. The malt base has a good balance between being roasty, smooth, and it's also got a little bit of sweetness. That's where the biggest complexity of the beer lies. The hops are quite kind of bitter and strong, to be honest with you, and you've also got a nice juicy fruity quality to this one, but in the aftertaste it really gets more roasty, toasty and bitter. But overall it's a beautiful beer, this one. Has all the complexity that you would want from this style, so if you get the chance, I highly recommend that you check this one out. A very, very good beer, the It's Not Vodka, a Russian Imperial Stout at 9.1% from Yellowbelly Beer in Wexford over in Ireland. Awesome stuff, and it's cool to be able to try this brewery for you. Like I say, very, very well respected these days, and hopefully I can review some more of their beers at some point in the future, but I'm not sure where I'm going to see them again. I actually did notice on this one, just when I put it down, it does actually have the recycle marks for Sweden and Norway, so maybe there is a possibility for me to get this beer back home in Sweden. So yeah, we need to see how that goes. But let's leave it at that then. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beer is from Yellowbelly Beer as well. And like I said, I'm sure I'll return to these guys at some point in the near future. Make sure you check out my social media and make sure you have a go at some of these Yellowbelly beers if you get the chance. This one was the It's Not Vodka, an awesome Russian Imperial Stout at 9.1%. Until the next time, Slanja just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slanja, Skull, make sure you check out this beer. Cheers.